Not the kind of Canada we expect to see. We're going to continue with our building community here and a conversation with Detective Corrigan and an activist from Hamilton, Kojo Damptey, the director of the Centre for Civic Inclusion. You were both involved at that event. Kojo, why did you go? That was a People Party of Canada presentation last month in Hamilton. Why did you go?
Yes, we were there to support the many residents that disagree with some of the language and some of the rhetoric that has been displayed from the People's Party of Canada. So we were there to support the many residents and also ensure that residents' voices are heard.
Detective, I didn't expect that an elderly couple could be shouted at, called Nazi scum, and that's just harassment, right? That's not a crime.
It is a crime. It's a crime of harassment. And if you stay in somebody's way, it's also a mischief. If you stop them, blocking them going into a building, that can also be a charge of mischief under the criminal code.
So you were there, as you have been since last October, at
Yep.
every kind of public protest that is, in my view, very hate-filled. It's
Yep.
not good neighborliness.
No.
And why can't it just be shut down, go home, everybody, you're gone?
Freedom of speech. Section 2 of the Charter on Rights and Freedom. Everybody has a right, within very small limits, there's some limits to that speech, to protest. People turn up, they disagree with what's being said, and then other people turn up to counter-protest. Everybody has the right to do that.
Kojo, is it getting out of hand in Hamilton? Should more be done?
Yes, I think it's getting out of hand. I would say that, yes, everyone has freedom of expression. However, there are limitations to that freedom of expression, especially when it comes to issues around hate. Hate is experienced from Black, Indigenous people of color. So they understand what it feels like when somebody uses a racial slur or somebody makes a comment that is dehumanizing.
What are the limits, though? What the detective is telling us, it has to be actually a crime has to have been committed.
Yes, and I would say that is the limit. That is the limitation, and that is the point that we're trying to solve. We can't wait for it to be a crime before we say it's a hate crime. So if someone is going to harass someone, use dehumanizing language, we can't wait for some violent act to happen before we charge that individual with a hate crime. And this goes back again to what Black, Indigenous people of color have been saying, that in this country there's a history of racism, and that racism leads to racist policy, leads to marginalization, leads to oppression. And so that is why it's important for us to listen to what residents are saying so that we can change that perception.
What would you like the police to do? And we can't wait until a crime is what Kojo's saying.
Kojo's absolutely right. So what we do is we have the criminal offences that we record, but we also record incidents. So no criminal offence, and some police departments don't do this. In Hamilton, we encourage people to come forward if a racial slur is used, or if a homophobic slur, or if an Islamophobic slur is used, to call the police, and we record it, and we try and identify who's responsible for it. And then we go speak to these people. A number of times I've gone to speak to suspects in incidents like this, even though it's not a criminal offence. And we counsel them on what they've said and how inappropriate it is. But the important part of that is that we record that information, that if down the road there is a violent incident, as Kojo said, we now have proof that there's a history of racism or homophobia or Islamophobia for that person.
But Kojo, we never used to see this on our streets. And Detective, we didn't have to have police duty on every night, every weekend since October. It's worse, isn't it, Kojo?
I would say, I wouldn't say it's worse. I would say that now it's out in the open. I think Black, Indigenous people of color have been experiencing this since 1876, right? Yeah. But then now it's become mainstream. It is in the political discourse. So now we're seeing that in the public sphere or in the public discourse. So that is why for some individuals in Canada, it might seem like, where is this coming from? But again, this started in 1876 when Sir John A. Macdonald called Indigenous people savages, right? And that is the root of all these issues around hate. It is indifference, and that's where we are.
All right. Well, it's time to take it back to our homes. Thank you for the wake-up call that you both have been. Thank you for your good work on the front lines of preventing hate.